Welcome back. Charlie O'Hara joining us this Wednesday morning, 436-1212. If you have a legal question. Good morning, Charlie.
Good morning.
You know, big talk today. Neighbors next door. Colorado, one of two states legalizing the recreational use of marijuana. The big question now, though, federally, it is still illegal. So the question is, what now?
Well, actually, and that remains a huge problem. I mean, these states that pass this, you can still be charged in federal court. Now, whether they will or not, I can't tell you, but it's still against it. The fact that it's legal by state law does not mean it's legal by federal law. And so in all these places, even pharmaceuticals, when they have it with a pharmacy and a doctor prescribes it, technically you can be charged in federal court because it's still against federal law, and most people don't understand that.
Well, you and I were talking during the break that if you went through a case, you know, in state court, and you were found innocent or not guilty, then you could be found guilty in federal court then.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there are separate crimes against separate entities. I mean, one's a crime against the state and one's a crime against the federal government. They're separate. And so people could be charged. I mean, although it's probably not going to happen, it still remains a real problem. And I think for all citizens, when the laws are inconsistent, when you don't really know what's against the law and what's not against the law, it's a real problem for all of us. I mean, we need to know what we can do and what we can't do. Right, okay. Just wanted to pick your brain on that. I figured you'd have something to say. Okay.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and take some phone calls this morning. Hi there, what's your question for Charlie?
Yes, Charlie, I have a future stepson. He has his car on my property, and I asked him a lot of times to move it nicely. And me and my parents are going to have it towed if you don't come and get it. Do we have that right?
Well, if it's your property, his car's on there, and you've told him to take it off, I think you do have that right. If you want to really make it kind of so that he doesn't have anything to complain about, you can give him a letter or something in writing and keep a copy of it and it'll say, if you don't move it by X day, I'm going to tow it. And if he doesn't tow it, that's his problem. Now, I don't know who the tow company's going to charge, but they may hold his car and try to charge him. They may charge you for taking it. I don't know what arrangement you make with the tow company, but if he's leaving it there and you told him to move it, then he needs to move it.
So you can't necessarily contact law enforcement and have them have it towed then?
Oh, I think you could. Well, I think you could contact law enforcement and tell them that it's there and it's a trespass, but probably the easiest and quickest way is to have somebody tow it and get it out of there.
Okay, thanks, Charlie. Thanks for calling in. Good luck with that. We're going to go ahead and take another call this morning. Hi there, what's your question for Charlie? Hi there, what's your question for Charlie?
Yes, my friend, he's on community corrections. Hello?
Hi, we're there, what's your question?
And I was wondering what kind of consequences would he be facing?
Well, community corrections is actually a very intensive form of probation. If you get convicted of a crime, especially a felony, there's different levels of probation that the judge has an option of putting you on. And probably one of the stricter levels is community corrections. They actually even have a halfway house that community corrections has, but community corrections normally would be where you have to report maybe weekly and do UAs quite frequently, and the service officer, or the ISO as they call them, intensive supervision officer, would have to come out, would probably come out and check your house and make sure you didn't have beer or marijuana, as we just discussed before, or things like that in your house, and that you kept a job and did what you're supposed to do.
You know, in that kind of a situation, is it just up to the judge what they want, or do you have to commit a specific offense to get that?
Well, it is. Everything's always up to the judge. I mean, whatever happens is always up to the judge, but there's some guidelines that we have around that control somewhat where the judge is supposed to put you, but the judge can always do what he wants.
Okay,
He's the judge.
And I've not heard of community corrections before. You just usually hear probation.
Well, and it is probation. It's just a more intensive probation. So, I mean, in some ways you say, well, if you didn't have to go to prison, what's your problem? Just follow the law and you won't get in trouble. But a lot of people get in trouble they do it because they're not real responsible, and so they're doing what they're supposed to do as far as reporting every week and getting a job is sometimes really difficult for people.
Okay, well, thank you, Charlie. Thanks for coming in today.
Sure.
And we appreciate your calls. We'll be back in a moment with more Eyewitness News.